Everyone has a story to tell. It's my mission to tell it. Unscripted, unedited, we are on the record.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarina Fazan, and thank you so much for joining us for this episode of On the Record. You know, I am a huge believer in women, strong women, inspiring women, and their incredible stories. I literally have goosebumps right now because I am sitting next to the new Chief of Police in Tampa, Mary O'Connor. Welcome back to Tampa.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be back.
Oh my gosh, you know what? I don't know if you can be more excited than me right now, to be honest with you. You're a rock star, and we really appreciate you coming on the record.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's just get started with you. You know, we've read so many articles about the new police chief, but do people really know you? I mean, are you from the city of Tampa? I know you worked at the Tampa Police Department for 22 years, but let's start with your history.
I grew up in New Jersey. I'm an only child.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Oh my, I have an only child as well.
Really?
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of law enforcement officers have like a long history of law enforcement in their family. I just wasn't one of those people, so I didn't really know what I was going to do. I came to Florida as a freshman in college. And I graduated from college 4 years later. I had a criminology degree, and I wasn't really
sure. And where did you go? I'm sorry.
USF.
Okay, USF. Okay, I'm sorry.
I started at St. Leo,
Okay.
and then I transferred to USF, so I'm a graduate of USF. Go Bulls. And
Go Bulls.
I got out of this college and not really sure what I was going to do with this degree. And it's kind of a long story, but I ended up, my first job was with the Madeira Beach Police Department. You know, back then when the Gulf beaches had all little individual police departments, and the chief in that department was retired from Tampa PD. He was a retired major. His name was Bert Hatcher. And he encouraged me to go to the academy and encouraged me to go work in Tampa because I had what he called a lot of opportunity in Tampa that I wouldn't have had in a real small beach department. And little did I know how much opportunity he meant.
Absolutely. You worked at the Tampa Police Department for 22 years
Right.
before leaving and working nationally with the U.S. Department of Justice and the FBI and consulting. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But back to your story. We always say here on the record that we like the New York Times version, not the Reader's Digest. So
Okay.
I still want to go back to what you mentioned. It was so interesting about being an only child. And you're right. It's with police and fire that more family members follow.
Right.
Into that path. But what brought you to Florida in the first place?
A lot of northern kids come to college down here. I think there's just the draw to Florida with the climate and the weather and you know, just people tend to migrate down here. My family was no different. So I came first, went to St. Leo as a freshman, and my parents moved down here a couple of years later. So, and we've all been Florida residents ever since. That was in 1988.
That is wonderful. Don't you love, we all love Florida, of course. So let's also talk about just a little bit more of the personal side, and then we'll get into the city of Tampa. You are happily married.
Yes,
right?
happily married. So I met my husband, Keith, at Tampa PD. We were both rookie police officers, and we got married in 1997. We had Ryan in 2001 and Natalie in 2006, and we just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations, Chief.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, yes.
Did you ever think, we talked about you worked 22 years again, that number at the Tampa Police Department. Did you ever think you would come back as chief? You were an assistant chief, right? When you were here?
I was.
Yeah.
I worked my way through the ranks. I retired as the assistant chief. Ironically enough, Keith retired as the assistant chief also. So we both worked our way through the ranks. So we were very blessed by the city of Tampa was very good to us, and we served the citizens for all those years. Keith did 25 years. Did I ever know I was going to come back as the chief? I'm going to say no to that, but I always felt a draw that I would come back in some capacity someday. I guess the chief was more like a dream than anything.
Well, now it's reality.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to build the city even stronger than it is. And there are some tough questions really about the city of Tampa. If we take a look at it, I would really, we would all enjoy your perspective. Like some of the numbers that you look at right now, startling for the city of Tampa, like the murder rate is up.
Yes.
And I know that's a national trend. I think the pandemic does have something to do with it. I'm not a psychologist.
I do too.
You do too.
Yes.
So how would you respond to that, and how would you like to tackle?
Well, I think that, like you said, the pandemic brought society down as a whole, and I think that mental health is a real crisis in this country right now. And that's not only the community that we serve, it's also the law enforcement officers that that work. So the pandemic just had an impact on all of us, and I think that we need to have an overarching strategy of making the community feel better. Tampa PD has a new behavioral health unit where we have a police officer paired up with a clinician.
Oh,
And
fascinating.
Yes, and they go out to calls and they target mental health calls. And they go and try to get intervention services for the people that need help the most through like crisis intervention instead of just police service. So we go out and we identify them, get them the help and the services they need after, and then we do follow-up. So the goal is for the behavioral health unit to lower the number of calls for service that just the police department respond to and have a little bit more of a softer, gentler approach and try to get help and intervention versus, just law enforcement, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
So that's part of a wellness initiative, and there's more to it, right, Chief, that you want to implement?
Yeah, well, I mean, during my time outside of Tampa PD in the last several years, I did see that there was a big impact that the pandemic had on the profession, because I was around law enforcement officers all the time, and you want them to feel happy and healthy so that they can better serve their community. So I'm a real proponent of wellness initiatives inside the department, keeping officers physically fit and mentally fit. I came across a piece of literature in my travels called Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. It's a book written by a psychologist. His name is Dr. Kevin Gilmartin, and he's world renowned for his work with law enforcement officers coping and having the skills necessary to, cope with the crisis that they see. So I was fascinated by the book. It's a very easy read. It's really like chapter by chapter of like how police officers should just unplug on their days off and again stay physically fit, eat healthy, get good rest, that kind of stuff. So anyway, I just bought 1,000 copies of the book for the whole department. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
How many people are in the department? Is it 4,000 officers?
No, it's just under 1,000 sworn and then about 300 civilians, so about 1,300 total.
See, and I should know that, but the show is unscripted, unedited. It's a conversation. So Chief, speaking of that, though, when I was growing up, you always had the most respect for the law enforcement officers, and I still do, for people out there going out every day in the military, protecting our lives. Do you feel, to me it's sad, like right now with, George Floyd, everything that's happened, don't police officers even have, it's just more difficult to be an officer?
They've always had a tough job because law enforcement officers are humans and we're supposed to go out and be Teflon coated when we serve the community, but we're humans and we have emotions and feelings and things going on in our family lives like everybody else does. The events of the last couple of years were unfortunate, but I think that we have a very resilient profession. And I think that it's just a matter of time before they start feeling the self-confidence again. In order to be a lifelong law enforcement officer, you can't let obstacles get in your way, and you have to persevere through tough times. And I think that most law enforcement officers would only see that as like a snapshot in time of a tough time.
Absolutely, and I'm seeing it swinging back, right? Or the pendulum swinging back. But going back to that question about the some of the increases in crime, what I feel, and how cool is it that it's my own network? So I'm allowed to talk about how I feel. I
anything you want,
anything I want. So on the record, I think you're amazing. And I think what you bring, the perspective you do bring, are all those years with U.S. Department of Justice, FBI, consulting. Can you share that?
Sure.
Share a little bit more of that experience and why you think it's so beneficial to the Tampa Police Department.
It ties right into the violent crime rate. So the Department of Justice hosts a program called the National Public Safety Partnership. It's a nationwide program where there's a team of subject matter experts and other professionals that get deployed to the most violent cities in America to try to bring an outside perspective to that city to work on strategies and collaborate on how to reduce violent crime.
That's amazing. So
yes.
You did that.
I did. I was a part of that. I worked with Memphis, Tennessee, and I worked with Kansas City, Missouri. And, even though they have a much greater violent crime problem than Tampa does, it was very interesting to see some of the strategies that bigger cities and more violent cities had to try to reduce violent crime. One thing that I came across in my travels was a need for social services above and beyond police service. So long after the police leave the call for service, there's always a need for like mental health crisis reduction or some kind of trauma intervention or whatever that is, or vocational training or whatever we can help with to partner with those agencies to make sure that there's a holistic approach to helping the family versus just the one call for police service.
Well, you know, speaking of that, you're also so passionate about building up or building stronger bonds with faith-based leaders.
Yes. Well, I think that community engagement is one of my platforms that I really want to enhance, you know, during my work with TPD. And I think that that includes our faith-based leaders, because like everything is tied together. Going back to the events of the last couple of years, the pandemic, the mental health crisis in the country, a lot of people turn to faith for their strength and their daily inspiration. So what I'm doing at Tampa PD is I am revamping or kind of revitalizing our TPD chaplaincy program, so that there's a lot of pastors in the department that can ride along with officers or have an office at headquarters where officers can kind of go and feel like they have a safe place to talk, you know, kind of let their feelings out a little bit, but also partnering with the pastors in the community so when they're preaching to their congregations about reducing gun violence, it's reaching a much larger audience.
Well, I feel too that you seem to me anyway one of those chiefs that will be out in the community quite a bit. I saw you at the Girl Scout luncheon.
Yes.
You know, so and then I talked to you about this breakfast with friends that I'm emceeing, and
yes.
You said I'll be there.
Yes.
You know, how important do you feel is that for the chief to be physically seen and active in the community?
Well, both of those events that you mentioned involve our youth, so that's so important. I mean, what a better place for a female police chief to be than at a Girl Scout luncheon?
Absolutely.
Right?
Right.
I mean, they're our future police chiefs, those girls. So I was really honored to be there, and I know I got a really warm welcome at that luncheon as well. So I was happy to connect with the young ladies. But also the breakfast with friends, you know, that's a youth-related organization as well. I think that, you know, our youth need to realize that the police are here to help, and we're here to help them grow and help them become productive, good members of society for our future. But getting out into regular church events, I mean, I've been to so many church events, a lot of gun reduction, violence events. I just feel like it's good for me to really connect with the entire community. Tampa's a very diverse city. And I really like meeting with the different groups because I learn about different cultures and different interests and different hobbies and, you know, different ways to connect with everybody.
And speaking of diversity, tell us your ethnic background too.
Oh, so I'm Hispanic.
I know, it's so funny. And you said, Sarina, I'm Hispanic, but I don't speak
Spanish.
Yes, but I'm Indian and I don't speak Urdu or.
There you go. Okay, well that's a perfect analogy.
All right, so you're Hispanic. So
my grandmother on my father's side was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and she immigrated to the United States when she was about 6 years old. The one regret I have is my grandmother. I never made her teach me Spanish. I should have done that. But she was a very strong woman. Let me tell you about her just for a second, if I can.
Oh, we would love it.
I think I got my work ethic from her. So my grandmother worked for the city of New York for 35 years. And she, and when she passed, she actually was still collecting her pension from the city of New York. And my grandfather was retired from transit in New York as well.
So did your grandmother work in transit or what
No,
department?
she worked for social services.
Okay, social services.
For the city of New York, yep.
That's probably why you're so passionate about that too. It's
Probably.
Like, you know?
I mean, it's all in the family. But she used to always tell me, Mary, you know, someday you're going to be really happy when you have your pension and work towards your retirement, and really instilled in me that hard work is going to give you a rewarding retirement someday. So, yes.
Gosh, isn't that something? And see, that's what we love hearing the personal details.
Thanks.
We're going to go to a break shortly, but you did mention the Girl Scout luncheon and how much better to be there than the female police chief. You are only the second female police chief here in Tampa. Jane Castor, of course, the mayor, was the first. But think about this, guys, as we go for a break. In the city of Tampa, our three key female leaders, Mayor Jane Castor, Chief Mary O'Connor, and Fire Police Chief Barbara Tripp.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I need to get all three of you in a room.
Yes.
Yes, for sure. How much fun would that be? All right, so we'll talk about that and the importance of also females in these type of positions when we come back. Okay, stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back.
You use maps for travel, but did you know there's mapping for your skin? It's called Visia Skin Analysis.
Above average, that's pretty good.
Here's why I used it at South Tampa Dermatology. It scans your skin for sun damage and wrinkles. You can see how your skin compares with others in your age group. Why is this important?
So here's what we'll do.
It can target a treatment program to meet your needs and save your skin over time. Another reason why I rely on the dream team at South Tampa Dermatology.
Labelswap is a retail store that you can bring in the items you don't want anymore. We will buy them for either a cash offer or store credit, and you can also shop the items as well. We carry anything from H&M, Lululemon, up to your luxury items like Gucci and Louis Vuitton. There's nothing really around like it here in the market. It is a fun, personalized experience.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to On the Record. I'm here with Chief Mary O'Connor, City of Tampa. Again, congratulations, Chief.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here with us. It's, it's so important to talk about law enforcement. And,
it is.
And I have the greatest respect for you, as well as you're a female leader, and I'm such a huge proponent of building up women. So,
yes.
So let's talk about that, too. What does this say? You are the chief and you're a female, and you and I were talking before the show. Are you seeing more female police officers?
We're having a recruitment crisis nationwide right now, but I think the recruitment crisis when it comes to females has always been there, because I'm not so sure that women are always drawn to a male-dominated profession such as law enforcement. But I realized when I first got here, obviously being an only child and being a little naive to some of the real things that law enforcement officers do, I realized that there was a real need for women in the profession, because women tend to be a little bit more nurturing. Like, no offense, guys, but no offense, but they tend to be a little bit more nurturing. I think we take things a little bit slower, maybe a little bit more detail oriented, and not quick to use force necessarily. Maybe have better de-escalation communication tactics, if that makes sense. So I know that there's been a lot of research in that regard, and over the years, like reflecting back on it, it makes sense.
Share some of that research, though, that you were sharing with me and one of my producers, Larissa Stanley, about was it the Nebraska Police Department that you were talking about?
Yeah, I read an article in the paper yesterday that there was a department in Nebraska that really had some cutting edge recruitment efforts going on to bring more women in. And the department was really doing a great job with getting less use of force incidents, less arrests, just a lower crime rate, like especially violent crime, connecting with youth that didn't necessarily want to cooperate with law enforcement, just really, enhancing those communication skills to do like a more, not a better job, but maybe look at it from a different perspective.
But you know what? You did bring up a very good point, too, at the beginning when you said, and again, and she said it, the chief even said it, no offense, guys, but women, I think, yes, for the most part, we are more nurturing. We're more communicators as well.
Yes. And that just brings a whole different perspective. I see it at my staff table, and before I left TPD, and Mayor Castor could bring the whole new perspective as well, because she was a female chief. She was the first female chief, and it's just a different perspective. I mean, it's just genetics. It's men versus women. Not saying one's better than the other. It's just different. And I think having the broad view, the more global view of things, where like at the staff table, I'm here, I have a female acting major right now, but the rest of the table are men. And we just all discuss things, and everyone has a different perspective. And I think that the female perspective adds to that in a positive way.
Yes, but what was that like? Like, what was that like, going up in the ranks when you were one of the few females?
It was tough in the beginning. I think, you kind of have to try to find your way, and you have to kind of get the men to take you seriously. But for me, I think I was real successful in that, because I always wanted to be the woman cop that was promoted based on merit and performance and not, not diversity, right? So I really always prided myself on being able to just, do pretty much anything anyone else in the department could do within reason.
So that was my next question. In fact, like, how did you do it? And what would you tell young girls out there, who might want to be a police officer, may want to be the police chief? What advice would you give them? Well,
I think you have to always persevere in the face of adversity, right? Always have strength in the face of adversity. No matter what life throws at you, make sure that there's strength there, that you can get through anything, because everything we go through makes us stronger. And then also always reach for your dreams. Like, don't ever give up. Put your eye on the ball of what you want and go for it. This is a world of opportunity, and a lot of us have stars in our eyes. And if we have a dream, let's keep going for it until we achieve it.
I know, my mom in the kitchen always had a sign, and I love quotes, and it said, "You were never given a dream without also the ability to make it come true."
Right.
And you are speaking directly to that. So this show, as you know, it's a conversation, and I love going back and forth. But both you and your husband are in law enforcement, and you have 2 children.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Tell that story?
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, yeah, so both my parents are law enforcement officers.
Yeah, not easy on them.
Okay, so.
Not going to be easy on my daughter's first boyfriend, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly.
So, so Keith and I met on a traffic stop. I backed him up on a traffic stop at 4 in the morning, just 2 cops backing each other up. This was in 1994. And then in 1995, we were involved in a pretty critical incident. We were on the same scene. And the department sent us to critical incident stress debriefing, where you go and kind of talk about the incident afterwards. And we started talking, and then we went on a couple of dates after that. And the rest is history. So we got married in 1997. Yep, my son Ryan was born in 2001, and Natalie was born in 2006, and now 25 years later, Keith and I are still together. The kids are doing great. I retired from TPD in 2016. He left in 2019, and now we're both back serving the city of Tampa. I'm back as the chief, and Keith is back as the code enforcement manager. So it's really neighborhood enhancement, they call it.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And you know what? Your eyes are sparkling, and you have a huge smile on your face.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah, and so I'm so happy for you, too. I mean, like a healthy home.
Yes.
Healthy life.
Yes.
So with the kids, though, because your son Ryan was born on one of the darkest days.
Yes.
In Tampa's history, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. So we were excited to bring our first child into the world, and everybody, I guess, knew what had happened. So it was July 6, 2001, and Tampa police officer Lois Marrero was killed on that day. She was shot by a fleeing bank robber. So anyway, I turned the TV on the hospital bed when I got a little bit of a break, and their Bay News 9 had the ticker at the bottom.
Gosh.
And, my blood pressure spiked and everything. But at the end of the day, my strength came from Lois's partner at the time, Mickey.
Yeah.
Who told me that God took away on one hand and gave back on another. So every year, we celebrate Ryan's birthday, and we always think of Lois and say a little prayer.
Wow.
That July 6th, and Ryan will be 21 this year. And I actually just had a great conversation with Lois's sister at a fundraiser. I met her about a month ago, and we had a really good connection, and I look forward to a lasting relationship with her, because that was really a poignant moment in my life, when you're bringing your first child into the world, and you're female, the first and only female Tampa police officers killed in the line of duty on the same day. So,
I know, it gives me, chills.
Yep.
And thank you for sharing that story and that perspective.
Yeah, it's I feel like law enforcement officers that die in the line of duty make the ultimate sacrifice, because they were doing what they are paid to do, which is protect the community. And, it just brings the whole lost in the line of duty to a whole level of seriousness when they're working and they die at the hands of an assailant, just because they were trying to protect the city.
Right, absolutely.
So it's really, this year is the 1 year since Jesse Madsen was killed in the line of duty. He was the last Tampa police officer, and this year we'll be going to Washington, D.C. to etch his name on the Law Enforcement Officer Memorial Wall. So it's a huge sacrifice, and it's a big part of our department's history to honor the men and women that paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Absolutely, and that's why the community should have the greatest respect, and I hope we do. I think the city of Tampa is a wonderful place, and despite, we talked about some of the numbers of the numbers spiking and some violent crimes, I do want to point out the city of Tampa, Bollywood came here. Not one arrest during Bollywood, the biggest international event in the world. The RNC, let's just point out, sadly, what Minneapolis saw before it came to Tampa.
Yes.
We were flawless.
Yes.
I think there were 3 arrests.
I think 3.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Right.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, we do really well with the special events.
Mm-hmm. We are just, we're just all rock stars, Chief. We're all rock stars. So within the next 30 days, what would you like to accomplish?
Well, we have a partnership with an organization called Rise Up for Peace.
Mm-hmm.
Rise Up for Peace is founded by 2 people who both lost their sons to gun violence.
Oh my gosh.
So Rise Up for Peace is a big partner of ours. We just gave Patricia Brown, who is the organizer of Rise Up for Peace, whose son was killed senselessly by gun violence. She was the Citizen of the Year award for Tampa PD. We honored her yesterday. Anyway, Tampa PD and Rise Up for Peace are getting together at Al Barnes Park on April 30th. We want to have a big community event. We would love everybody to come out, kids and vendors and partners, anyone that wants to bring their ideas to the table, resources to get to the youth. Let's just have a nice fun day in the park and just, throw ideas on the table of what we can do to get our message of not using a gun to solve your conflict out. So we just want a real good wide community showing for that. That's about 30 days out. And then I want to have a big summer initiative kickoff in conjunction with the end of school, just to kind of get the word out there to kids that gun violence is not the answer, partnering with the pastors, just getting the message as widespread out as possible.
Well, Chief, can you believe, I would love also to have them on the show. I would love to have them come on the record.
They would love that.
Absolutely. And can you believe it's already been half an hour, and so we're out of time?
Oh.
But I have an idea. We should do a check-in with the Chief. Would you come back on the record?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to tell everybody what our initiatives are and kind of get our public message out there and invite to events that we're going to be putting on. I want us to be unified. We can't do this alone. Tampa PD really needs to engage with the community, and, shows like this is obviously a good start. So I would love to come back and check in.
That would be so great. It would be such an honor for us here. And I'm going to put this on the record as well, so the Chief's husband cannot say no. Would you and your husband come on my Love in America series?
Yes.
Yes.
Keith doesn't know it yet. He'll come on the show.
He does now.
Yes.
Chief O'Connor, again, such an honor to have you here.
Thank you
so much, and we look forward to having you back. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and stay safe out there.
Thank you.